Hi everyone and welcome back to
Hello.
As if you said hello.
Oh, I mean, are you gonna introduce me or something? Like, you know?
It's by Sis and Bitches. She's back.
I'm
Actually,
still
no, wait. I know what I'm gonna do.
what?
No, I'm not doing that. Never mind.
I'm back from the dead, but I'm still half dead. Still sick, but we're back. We're here. We're present.
Yes.
We're gonna be yapping today.
We're gonna be yapping. Very excited about it because I will be able to say a bunch of things, okay, about this book that my sister made me read, okay? Without her insistence, I wouldn't have been in this situation. I wouldn't be in this situation at all, okay?
Oh, okay. Blame the sick person. Oh, isn't your whole thing to be like equality? Like, take care of the sick. We're not liability. And now I'm a liability. Girl.
Actually, you're talking to a sick bitch as well because you know what happened?
Yeah. We just take turns.
between this episode and last episode, first of all, my sister got sick, so we skipped an episode, right? But then also the same week, I was walking with Hopa, and we got trampled. Pika, why did you have to open the door like that? Did you see it?
She's like, what you saying about me?
Okay, well now you gotta have to wait. The protagonist of today's video, the protagonist of the book that we read for this episode. The book is My Year of Rest and Relaxation, and I've heard a crazy amount of things about this book, and not even like specifics, just more like how people felt about it. And a lot of it, yeah, like there were some people who were kind of like saying, oh, she's such a femcel, whatever the fuck, which is just not correct, to be honest. Like, she is an asshole, but sure as fuck not a femcel though.
Yep.
Like, first of all, femcel's not a thing. What you're trying to say is a man hater, but she isn't one. She's a woman hater. Let's start there.
Yeah, yep. It couldn't be more clear as day.
Literally, like, this bitch pisses me off. I have so many fucking notes. Oh my god, no, not 147. Okay, well, we're not gonna say all of that.
You have 147 notes?
Well, I have, like, highlighted 147 highlighted passages.
She said, go off.
Yeah.
She said, I'm about to rip this fictional character a new one.
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie. Listen, I have so many negative opinions about this woman. And listen, this is okay. First of all, this podcast is not usually not frequented by people who are behind on things, you know? So I don't have to explain why I can criticize her and still, you know, not be a woman hater, because some of you bitches are taking us back to the 50s. Some of you bitches really don't want to be free, and you want us to be locked up with you, and it's diabolical, okay?
Some of you women don't want to be free. Some of you women don't want to vote.
You just want us to suffer sometimes for no reason but to get some dick. And, like, you can get that without them liking you.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's, like, my... this is my lesson for the day.
Just a little appetizer.
Just a little appetizer.
What's to come.
Let me tell you, for those of you who don't know what the fuck this book is about, okay, first of all, by assistant, you were reading a synopsis. Do you have it still open?
Yes.
Can you read it for us, please?
Yes. So, My Year of Rest and Relaxation is a millennial literary phenomenon by Ottessa Moshfegh. I think that's how you say her name.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty much about, in short, is about a 20-something Columbia art history graduate living in and working in a prosperous post-Y2K New York City. She has it all. She's rich. She has a great job at an art gallery. Of course, she has to be an art student, which is, like, even more hilarious to me.
This is such a dick at us, actually. Like,
yeah.
Diabolical.
That's actually diabolical. Maybe that's why I hate her so much, because she reminded me of all our classmates.
Literally, she did, yeah.
Yeah, she is also, by the way, she is unnamed, so we're not going to refer her to anything but the narrator or the main character.
I'm gonna call her the bitch.
Yeah, or the bitch. She is socially and culturally rich because she is wealthy and she's beautiful and she comes from hella money. But despite all of this, she's like super depressed. And she's struggling with and we'll get into this, with the death of her parents. But emphasis on kinda, which we'll get into. Mm-hmm. But anyways, her only escape from her torturous depression is sleep. And so she goes to this kooky psychiatrist, and pretty much they both abuse drugs. And so she gets a bunch of medication to make her sleep for a year, pretty much, through this kooky doctor. So it's pretty much us, like the story is pretty much us going through her deep depression and how she's planning to sleep for a year.
Yeah.
And
that's the funny thing, actually. Like, I don't even know if her condition can be classified as depression. Like, maybe, like, light depression. Because her thoughts are nowhere near as bad in the sense of, like, self-destructive thoughts.
Yeah.
They're all, like, other people destructive. Like, they're just destructive. Like, they're not self-destructive at all. Which is crazy because, like, a part of depression is how not normal you are about yourself.
Yeah. Let's introduce some characters, though. Like, there's only a couple characters outside of her. So she has her
friend,
self-appointed best friend, Reva.
Yes.
Who's also struggling through a lot of things.
We'll cover it. We'll cover it as we go, honestly, yeah. So it's Reva who's struggling with a bunch of shit, and then there's this the psychiatrist who's like crazy and believes in conspiracies. I don't even know how she fucking has the license to prescribe anything.
She just is practicing. The only thing she's practicing is malpractice.
Literally, exactly. She's literally like MIA. It's as if if your psychiatrist was MIA, that would have been like the situation. She like you walk in and she tells you, put on some tinfoil on your head,
and live fast, die young. Bad girls do it well.
Anyway, also she's got an on and off boyfriend. What's his name? Trevor, right? Oh, such a nasty ass name. Sorry to Trevors of the world, but like you know it and I know it. Let's just acknowledge it. The name sucks. Anyway, and the thing is, fucking Trevor, I swear to God, like he started dating her when he was 30,
and she was like 21 or 18 or something.
No, she was 18, I think.
Oh. Ooh.
He was literally like her first everything, and they were like dating until she was 25, where the story picks up, right? So for like about 7 years they've been like on and off. And yeah, we'll get into that. Good Lord, honestly. Who else is important?
That's literally it. And then
the other ones are like kind of like background characters. You know, it's kind of funny because a lot of the things that they discuss in this book are very much things that we can understand without like any context, because she's in the arts and she like works for this gallery and whatever, and it just reminds us of every annoying ass person in the arts like industry, which is like basically everyone. Good Lord, what is going on? Honestly, like what happened? I mean, I know what happened. Capitalism happened. That's why they're also fucked in the head, like absolutely docked. The book itself just has so many weird things happen that show her in such an unflattering light, to be honest.
Yeah, and it's weird because I know that we're gonna probably get comments and being like, that's the point of the book, is that she's supposed to be like an unlikable narrator.
Yes.
She's supposed to be really like shitty and you're supposed to hate her. But the way that the book kind of ends, I feel like is trying to allude to some like she becomes woke, and that just doesn't work for me.
It doesn't at all. Oh, good Lord. The end is actually what's making this book the most insufferable piece of literature I have read in the past year or so. I mean, the reason why it's so bad is because she's not just like unlikable or complicated or even like, cause the thing is, it's really easy to make a female character seem unlikable to people.
Yep.
it's very easy to have a character that will get crucified. If she's a woman, she will get crucified. It's just how it is. Even if she didn't do much that was bad. Here, I feel like it wasn't that she was doing things in a way that affected other people in a negative way, but was actually like her asserting her own, like, you know, choices or her own life, which is what people are insinuating when they're talking about this character. They're oftentimes insinuating that this is some kind of feminist piece of literature because she's just doing a bunch of horrible crap, and that's about it, I guess. But she doesn't,
Yeah, like,
I don't really think that she does, like, actually physically does much that's negative, as much
right.
as, like, she's just got the most vile things that she thinks of people in her life. And
she's just a nasty person.
Yeah.
She's just a nasty person. Like,
she's not tortured. She's not a tortured person. She's not an unlikable character because, like, she did something that would be... Because the thing is, if it was in the feminist lens or whatever the fuck, right? Then whatever she would have done would have painted her... The perception of people would have been different if she was a man. Like, that's how I can kind of differentiate whether a book is actually trying to show someone who is a difficult person or a complicated person or a person who's temporarily going through something so their actions can be, you know, gross or something like that or whatever the fuck. And a person who is just bad. Just not... Like, I don't care to read about this bitch. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, she's not even... I wouldn't even say she's like subhuman. She's not a human.
If she would have been a man, I would have said execution.
Yeah.
That's how much I dislike her. You know what I mean? Like, and that's the thing, that this is why I can see that this book is not really like a feminist fucking piece of literature, because the truth is, if you wanted to show her as someone who's struggling with the world around her, and the world is like what's causing this type of turbulence in her life, because she continuously comments on how she hates fucking everybody and whatever, which is like, true bitch, like, who doesn't?
Me too.
Yeah, me too. Like that's how it is for many people, especially when you're looking at the world and you're seeing how little people give a fuck about, like, actually making things better. And not everyone. There's a lot of great people though. Like, this is the thing that's good about, like, for example, online platforms, that you sometimes do find people who actually give a fuck, but you also find a bunch of people who don't, and it's kind of like, you know, whatever. She might have undiagnosed, like, sociopathy or something.
Yep.
Because the way that she lives her life, but at the same time, you know what, I do think that of a lot of people in general, because of how they act. And, like, Reva is technically, like, the closest person to her, the only person who told her that she, like, loves her, and that she would always show up. And, like, the thing is, she would always complain about her showing up or whatever, but at the same time, Reva would show up and, like, take out the trash, for example, or do something that, like, actually helps this bitch who's just, like, on the couch, can't get up, which is like, isn't that what an actual friend actually does?
Yeah. And this is an important part for, like, the explanation for the ending that really fell flat for me. How I read it was like, oh yeah, like, her and Reva kind of drift apart, but then only after she's, like, stops, like, doing the drugs to sleep does she realize, oh, Reva's kind of a good person. Like, Reva actually gave a fuck about me. Reva's actually kind of a human, and I've been treating her so badly and just been living my life so, well, like, not living my life.
That's the funniest part about this all, is that there is a moment at the end where she, like, realizes that she should be, like, living her life, but she never actually feels remorse for anything she's done.
I know.
There's not a single sentence that's there to suggest that. That's what's so fucking horrible about this. Is, like, the thing is, okay, so let me just set up the dynamic between her and Reva. First of all, Reva always shows up even though she's, like, very depressed, like, always on the couch, whatever the fuck, right? And Reva comes to her house, usually with a bottle of wine that she drinks herself, because she is low-key an alcoholic. And it's kind of like, okay, so there's, like, for example, like, one of the quotes is, she popped Advil between drinks. She would probably qualify as an alcoholic, but she was right about me. I was on drugs. And it's, like, so fucking stupid. She can see that that she's an alcoholic, right? But she can't see that she's a drug addict, okay? I can't say sounds with like and then a afterwards without it getting mixed up. So just saying.
Yeah.
This is how it's gonna be. And then the whole thing is that we later find out that Reva also is bulimic. We get to know like what she's like doing day to day. We find out that she had an affair with her boss. Again, those girls are really young, like 24, 25. The boss is married with kids. So just to paint the picture, okay? So she had an affair with him and got pregnant. Said that she was gonna get, as far as I remember, but regardless of all of that, there's also the fact that her mother was dying from cancer this entire time. The entire book, her mother is dying, okay? And like she's kind of going like through treatment, and then she gets like a scan and it's still like not gone, right? So she needs to do another treatment, and at the end there's like, it's just so strange because like the protagonist is not gone enough in terms of her brain, in terms of her mind, to justify her behavior.
Yep.
Like,
agreed.
Her saying, for example, that there was a moment where Reva leaves the apartment and she hugs her while the protagonist is on the couch, and she goes, like in her mind, this girl is thinking, oh, I think that Reva is so swift with it. It's not an awkward gesture for her to give a hug to a lying down person because she's so used to taking care of her mother now and like hugging her while she's lying down, basically, right? So you can put those clues or context clues together, yet you still don't have any empathy for her. Like, not a single time while she's like assessing this girl, assessing her friend, in quotations, did she have like at least one thought where she was at least maybe feeling guilty for how little of a fuck she gives. Not only how little of a fuck she gives, but how nasty she is to her in her mind. That's the problem that I had with her.
Yeah, and yet she can make excuses for this Trevor motherfucker.
Exactly.
Like, she was so forgiving to him, and like, I get it. Oh, like messy young girl, like dating older man, like aesthetic. But like that pissed me off so much. And like that you could talk about him and like, oh my god, how much you loved him, and then Reva's here like taking care of your ass, and you're like, yeah, she's just jealous because she's fatter than me. Like, literally, she would say shit like that in the book. Or, like, just, like, she's self-conscious. She's, like, a bitch. Like, all this other...
She thought a lot of nasty shit about her. And you know what? The worst part about it is, again, that she never had any remorse or she never felt guilty, which is immediately a red flag for me when it comes to assessing someone, whether they have depression or they're just annoying.
Yeah.
Depressed people usually have, like, unfounded guilt.
Yeah.
Even when they don't do shit to people, they feel guilty for no fucking reason. They just walk around and feel guilty for no reason. Like, what actually, you know, what put me over the edge was that whole thing with her mother. So Reva's mother dies. She comes to her friend, obviously, for support. Her friend is like, couldn't give two fucks, quite honestly. It's kind of crazy, honestly. And then after that, she started taking like this medication that would knock her out basically for 3 days.
Yeah.
And she would like randomly wake up somewhere because like realizing that, yes, the drug did knock her out like consciousness wise, but she was still walking around and doing shit and apparently like buying stuff or like going somewhere, going to a party or something like that. So she's kind of confused about what's going on when she's on that medication. And then she comes to on the train, okay? And the thing is, Reva asked her to show up to the funeral. Fucking obviously. And then she was kind of like trying to be like, oh, I can't. I'm on the couch. I'm gonna be on the couch. And it's like, girl, like, you have enough energy to like keep calling Trevor.
Literally.
You have enough energy to go and get coffee every day. You have enough energy to look at yourself in the mirror and assess that you still look hot every 2 seconds. You have energy for that, bitch.
Yeah.
But you don't have energy to go to your friend's mother's funeral. And this is your only friend. Let's be for real. Only friend who you've been friends with for years. The worst part is her, like, she basically, so she tells Reva, oh, I'm not gonna show up, yada, 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 yada. Then she wakes up on the train on the way to Reva's, like, town or whatever the fuck, right? So she's like, where the fuck am I? What the fuck is going on? She gets off the train and she's like, okay, so I came here while I was like out of it, right? So I guess I wanted. She doesn't even think that subconsciously she wants to go and support her. She doesn't even consider it.
Yeah.
This is how I know for a fact that I can't relate to her struggle, because the thing is, she, like, having this like really intense depression from the state of the world, from the state of like how people are feeling very isolated because you don't understand why people are acting the way that they're acting or the way that they feel and whatever, because they're just like acting weird as like just not living like people, you know what I mean? I understand that. I get it. But she doesn't actually experience that, because what she experiences is like being judgmental towards people who actually are going through a lot more than she is.
Yeah. Absolutely.
While not acknowledging any of that, while at the same time feeling superior to them for no fucking reason. And this is the thing with Reva, okay? So when she comes to Reva's house, all the way to her house, when she's in Reva's car, she's just like she keeps on thinking about what the house would be like, and she kind of like predicts it in her head, and she predicts something really like, as she like says something dinky or whatever the fuck, like the way that she even speaks of everything is so nasty. I like, she's such a piece of work. Actually, you know what? I should find like a quote from that point in the book, because it's crazy. Like, seriously.
Nasty, and not in a Tinashe way.
Yeah.
Nasty, derogatory.
Nasty, brackets, derogatory. So she comes to her house. She sees that it is what she like imagined, that it would be like dinky, which is like, okay, well, at this point, yeah, at this point also like, just what's wrong with you, bitch? Like, anyway, so we passed a high school, a library, a strip mall. Why anyone would want to live in a place like that was beyond me. Farmingdale State College, a Costco, 5 cemeteries in a row, a golf course, block after block of white picket fences with perfectly snow-blown driveways and walkways. It made sense that Reva had come from a place as lame as this. Just don't be friends with her at all.
Yeah, it's
like what's wrong with you? Why are you wasting her life on yourself? Anyway, it explained why she slaved away to fit in and make a home for herself in New York City. So you know that she's slaving away, and yet you don't acknowledge any of it. Like, you think she's like, she literally later on she says, like, when Reva told her in the past, like, she's talking about the past situation, that she really wants to fit in and that's why she's working so hard, and she responded to her, "Oh my god, Reva, that's so pathetic."
I know, I remember that.
Like, you can say that's misguided. You can say that's not something you should be focusing on. It's gonna like backfire in the future or something like that. Or you should be prioritizing yourself, or hopefully in the future our lives, you know, your life will turn around and I will help you with that, or something like that. This would be like a normal friend response. Saying that it's pathetic when you know that she clearly, like, she could basically see in the future, in a sense of like, when she was in the car predicting what she was gonna see there. So you already know this. You don't need to see her house. You don't need to see any of this to know what situation she's in. She continuously judges her for wearing like faux designer or something, and it's like, you know why she's doing that though. Like, I feel like I can't really like judge people like that, because I know that it's coming from like insecurity, and unless they're nasty people, it's like, this is just like you trying to make a living for yourself in a world that's so materialistic that they genuinely think you're like subhuman if you're not rich.
Yeah,
it's crazy. And like, and then she goes, it explained why she slaved away to fit in, yada yada. Her father, she told me, was an accountant. Her mother had been a secretary at a Jewish day school. This is it, she said, as we pulled into the driveway of a tan-colored brick house. It was ranch style and small, probably built in the 50s. Just by looking at it from the outside, I could tell that it had wall-to-wall carpeting, humid, sticky air, low ceilings. It looked like the opposite of my parents' house. Then Reva tries to tell her, like, I feel like this part of the book is so telling as to why I cannot like feel for this character, to be honest. Because up until this point, yes, she's like a dickhead everywhere, but it's one thing to have, or to like even be a dickhead from time to time or whatever, but still having like conscience.
Yeah.
But she actively, like, she never goes, oh, I'm such a dick. Like, she never even says that in her head. In her head. Not even outside.
And it's also not even like she's like not cognizant, like you said. Like, she can connect the dots.
That's the problem, like, yes.
She's not stupid. Like, she's smart. She's just actually a deplorable person.
She's just like an asshole, straight up, because over and over and over again, we get like, you know, it's so funny because I can tell what the author was trying to say with some of the moments. Like, for example, like when she was talking to Trevor, right? And they like show this passage where she said, I asked Trevor if he could have blowjobs or intercourse for the rest of his life, which one he would pick, and he says blowjobs.
Yeah.
And like, it like tells you everything you need to know about him. And it's like, what you know, it's kind of like the author, I know what she was trying to do with this, and I know that it is a characterization of this guy, but it's also a characterization of her, that hearing that she's still with him, she still comes back to him, she still wants to see him here and there, whatever. It's like, I'm not saying that she actually loves him, no, she doesn't. However, it's like, you're the pathetic one. When will you, like, when do you get off? When do you get off, literally and figuratively? When do you stop this nonsense? Like, when does that happen? Because it's just like, it's kind of like, this is what I hate about people, honestly. It's like when you talk to them and there's no sense to anything they say. This is so oftentimes, like, you can see it online a lot when you see someone tweeting and then the tweets underneath, it's like, oh my god, all of those people, literally barely 2 brain cells that are functioning. How? This is what it feels like, because there's no like you can, the worst part about her is that she can correlate things and she still doesn't do shit about it. This is what's like absolutely diabolical about this bitch. It's like, I'd rather you were actually annoying in terms of like being an asshole that's like active and at least tries to get something. Because in this case, it would be about ambition, it would be fun to read, and it would also be like a thing that I can like imagine in the future that you might turn your life around, in a sense of like actually realizing when you get all the things that you want that maybe you were wrong about the way that you were getting them. But here you're already there, and you're a dick. You're a dick, and you're annoying, and you're insufferable, and you spend your entire life living really strangely. And like, I understand that she doesn't have a good relationship with her mother. It's just weird that like you don't. It's so fucking strange. Like the whole thing. I'm like, how are you supposed to be relatable? People saying that there's empathy. What was that quote you were telling me about? The critics said something about it.
Respectfully, actually disrespectfully, it's so stupid. Even the coldest, most cynical person will empathetically cringe at some of our main characters' internal monologues. Like,
where
scratch the empathetically cringe, because that's also my issue too, is like when the way that the author was describing Trevor, like obviously Trevor is a fucking misogynist and he's like terrible to her, and her relationship with her parents as well is really bad, but like, was that supposed to be a device to make us feel empathetic towards her in a way? Is that the empathetic cringe we're supposed to feel? Because I don't feel it.
I don't feel empathetic cringe. I feel infuriated.
Yeah, I just
because
feel like
you're just like, you're not okay in the head. And like, I don't mean that. No, you know what? That's too nice, actually. I don't even know how to describe this. Like, let me just like, I'm just gonna keep on like finding quotes, because like, for example, the fact that she went to Reva's house, right, and then she went downstairs in the basement where Reva's room is, and it's very, very small, it's cramped, it's very wet and stuff like that. So obviously they're not a rich family, okay? They're not rich, whatever. Like, what's the big deal, bitch? Like, I don't understand. Anyway, and then she, the entire time, she was like, oh, I need to lie down, right? So she makes her take her down to her room so she can lie down until they have to go to the funeral, which is like, you ain't tired. You've been sleeping for 6 months.
I know.
It's just, it's absolutely ridiculous. And the worst part about this is that she continuously thinks about like Reva and Reva's bulimia comments on how she's trying to find the acidic smell or whatever. It's like, how are you saying that you're so depressed or that you're so like tired and you just need to sleep it off or whatever the fuck, and at the same time you have all this energy to be a dick. And then later on, she says, I waited until I heard her close the outside door of the bathroom and creak up the stairs before I went and looked through her medicine cabinet.
Huh?
Why?
Relevance, please.
Just why? Couldn't you could literally do anything but that. And you chose to do that because what's the fact of the matter is she is close with Reva. She could have asked. Just if she's that fucking curious.
Mm-hmm.
Yet she doesn't communicate with the girl. She shuts her down at every corner. She literally like a couple of pages before then, she talks to Reva and Reva tells her, I'm so tired. I keep on having like really weird dreams. Her response to that, considering that this is her mother's funeral day, okay? Mm-hmm. Her response to that is, oh, everyone thinks their dreams are weird, Reva.
Like, why do words come out of your mouth?
Why do you even talk? Like, the thing is, like, she talks to her like she doesn't want to talk to her. But then she goes downstairs, and when Reva leaves, she tries to snoop around and find information. Why?
Why? I know.
Do you care or do you not? Do you want to know something? And I'm not even saying care in a good way. I just mean, like, do you give a fuck to know information or not? Because it's inconsistent. Is that a problem with the author? Did she do that? Is this the issue? Like, did the author not realize that this is inconsistent as fuck?
Mm-hmm. Some people are going to be like, yeah, like, that's the whole point of the book, is that she doesn't care and she's, like, not living life in comparison to Reva. But it's like, even with that sentiment, it's so annoying to think that this person, one who's a deplorable person, doesn't see other people as humans, but also has all of the privileges to live a fucking good life, gets this cathartic moment of being like, actually, dude, life is kind of okay if I live it.
Oh my god, it's like the worst part. The worst.
That ending actually makes me want to, like, lose my shit, is that you could have just lived a good you had all the tools to live a good life.
Yeah.
And you still get a happy ending-ish. Like,
literally, no, this is the worst.
Hope at the end?
Yeah.
You get hope at the end?
Bitch, this is actually the worst part, but let me actually, you know what? I need to also say a thing about, just, all of this is so fucking annoying. Spoilers, by the way, 40 minutes in.
Yes.
But I feel like there's no point in discussing a book without spoilers. Like, what the fuck is the point?
It's like,
also,
you're just reading a synopsis.
The book is old enough that most people who wanted to read it read it, and if you wanted to read it, I'm telling you, knowing spoilers is not gonna change your experience. It's boring as shit, and you're just gonna be annoyed at her the entire time. But regardless,
it was really, the book is not even long. It took me so long to get through it because being in that character's head was actually insufferable.
I read it in one day because I had to for the podcast, and I was just so like, I was just so mad that I wasted my life on this. Like, I was just like, what the fuck did I do? But thank God I have a podcast so I can yap about this shit. Yeah. And like, anyway, so the thing is, there's like a few things that I want to say about her as a person that kind of like really puts it in perspective why why no one can logically and sanely sympathize or empathize with this bitch. First and foremost, there are moments in the book where she talks about her past in general, and there's a lot of conversation about her life before she was depressed, okay? And this is the part that I think really characterizes her a lot. So, for example, her dad was dying, and her mom told her that your father wants to spend his last days in the house, so they brought him back to the house from the hospital. And she says, in her head, obviously, I left school and took the train up to see him the very next day. Not because I thought it would mean so much to him to have me there, but to prove to my mother that I was a better person than she was. I was willing, this is the worst, I was willing to be inconvenienced by someone else's suffering.
Oh, babe.
And then she says, and I didn't expect that my father's suffering would bother me very much. I barely knew him. His illness had been secretive, as though it were part of his work, something that ought not to concern me, and nothing I'd ever understand. And it's like, okay, listen, all right, your parents are dickheads. Does that mean that, like, it doesn't mean that you can't have other connections in life that mean something?
Yeah. I don't know. For me, it's just like another, like art school, like, boo-hoo kind of, you know, when like, it's like that trope of like movies where like the rich privileged kid, even if they're considered middle class but they actually live in a giant ass house and like have money, when their biggest problem in life is like, oh my god, my parents are divorced. Ugh. Like that's their biggest problem.
Oh my
it's like
god.
It's the same energy as that. It's like, dude, you're literally like the only person you feel sorry for is yourself. And it's like, it's so funny. It's just so funny. It's like, you just look like an idiot. Like, girl, there's nothing wrong with your life. You're just a mean person.
Literally.
A self-centered person, and everyone's just a side character for you. Which I guess is the point of her character, is that she's like a narcissist and everyone's just a side character. But she doesn't deserve the ending that she got in the book.
Exactly. And then also, you know,
Right.
the whole, like, I feel like the thesis of this whole book, or not, maybe not the thesis, but the main hook,
yeah,
was that this is a person who's trying to sleep, like literally hibernate through an entire year, right? And how we know that this isn't really possible for a human being, so how is she going to do that, right? And the first half of the book, the first half of the year, we're basically just following her failing miserably, like kind of doing it but not really, like she's not really sleeping but she is kind of, and it's kind of like it's so like really messy, right? And then the second half is her trying to actually do it the way that she planned in the beginning, that she was actually gonna like sleep, you know, through the entire thing. And I told you that she finds that medication that knocks her out for 3 days, so she decides that she's gonna go with that medication. But because it makes her wander around, she wants to be completely isolated. She wants to be locked in the apartment. So she gets this fucker from her gallery, this guy who literally was like represented by her gallery or whatever, and she gets him to basically combine his like artistic practice with her wanting to do this shit, right? So he basically would film in the apartment and like he would converse with her or whatever while she's under medications, and like it's kind of like that's his project, right? But she will get in return that he's gonna like throw away garbage and bring food or bring whatever she needs and stuff like that, right? And the worst part about this book is that, like, when you're reading it, you're expecting the book to be realistic and actually arrive at a point where she either overdoses or she somehow solves that issue some other way. Because let's be real, you can't sleep through your problems even if you try.
Yeah.
We've all tried. Anyone who's got depression at one point or another in their life, whether it's chronic or just like during some time in your life or whatever, you know that you tried to do that, and did it work? Yeah. Did it fucking work? It never works. It just makes it worse every fucking time. And that's like, obviously, like sometimes you need some time alone or whatever the fuck, like 1 day, 2 days, but we all know that as soon as it hits like fucking 4 days, 5 days, you're slipping. You're slipping and slipping and slipping. Your mental health is going in the fucking gutter. We all have experienced, okay, maybe not all of us, but all of us mental health babes, you know, we have experienced that. So it's just so harmful, I think, personally, that this book genuinely shows that this bitch got better because of this.
Yeah.
This is what killed me, okay?
Yeah, me too. That she got like a sense of hope at the end. Oh, I can't with that, dude.
Oh my god, it's just like it's just so fucking gross that the writer decided that this would be okay to, because the thing is, let's be real. The main character is basically an addict. We're watching an addict story unfold. And we're seeing that both her and Reva are struggling with addictions. Reva is addicted to alcohol, and she's addicted to, like, bulimia is a form of addiction. And it's kind of like, it's so fucking crazy that with all of this in mind, she decided to resolve the book this way.
Yeah.
Because there's a moment after Reva's mother's funeral where I think that when she again was like under the influence of like one of the that drug that knocks her out for 3 days, she literally goes to I don't know what she talks about with Reva, but Reva takes all of her meds away. And I think it's because Reva realizes that the girl is not there. She doesn't know where she is. She doesn't know what's going on. Yada yada, right? So she comes to Reva's apartment. She breaks in.
I hate this part.
Yeah. She breaks into the apartment. She, like, goes through it. She is commenting every single detail. She's got something nasty to say about it.
Yeah. She's tearing that place apart.
She's tearing that place apart. It's like dinky, it's small, it's this, it's that. And it's like the craziest thing is that knowing all of these things, like, Reva has actual life experiences that explain why she has bulimia and why she has alcoholism.
Yeah.
And it makes sense that she's struggling. Because I don't know, you guys, poverty will do that to you. Poverty will break your spirit. I'm gonna tell you that.
We can both confirm.
Like, and the thing is, I wouldn't even claim that
poverty.
even, because I had like a very lucky upbringing.
Yeah.
I'm struggling in this economy now, but I didn't have, like, obviously there was ups and downs and whatever, but it's because, like, it's an unstable country, whatever. We're not going to talk about that. But it's not the same because I didn't have as many struggles as Reva. Well, not the same struggles, let's say that way, right? So I can't, like, even tell from my experience, but I know that just by looking at the cycle of people who are, for example, immigrants, right? And how they have to, like, their parents usually only the first born generation are the ones who struggle but might get a chance to get out of it. The first generation just gets completely nuked by being slaves to this system. Like, we're literally just moved to be slaves. Because it's kind of like, it's usually a better deal, for example, because at least you're alive. But this is like, it's still, all of it sucks. And poverty will break your spirit. That's what it will do, for sure. And, like, I feel like there was also, like, some movie that I saw that was, like, based on, like, a Jane, like, something from the 19th century, where the dad of, like, one of the main characters told her, like, dude, like, you gotta choose somebody who's got at least some money because poverty will break your spirit. He was right. Like, is he wrong? No. And
Little Women? Is it Little Women?
It's something along those lines, but I don't think it was Little Women. It was, like, the same genre.
Okay, that vibe. Okay.
That vibe, yes. I just can't remember which one it was exactly, but I remember it was, like, someone's dad who said that to her. Regardless of all of that, it's just, like, it's crazy that knowing all of those things, seeing them firsthand, and seeing how it is a depressing, like, atmosphere to be in, right? Instead of having any empathy, she's so mad at her. And again, we're supposed to not see this. Well, I mean, I guess maybe, like, I wouldn't say that we're supposed to feel any type of way about it. I don't think that it was framed that way, but regardless of all of that, we see her be like such an addict in that apartment, you know, like, looking for it, talking to herself while she's, like, technically, like, she thinks she's talking to Reva or whatever. She says to the fucking air that if I find it here, I know I'm gonna find it here, whatever. Like, she's literally acting like a crazed addict in the moment when they really need that hit.
Yeah.
Let's be real, right? So we're shown this breaking moment for her, which is usually very common for, like, addict stories, where you need to see that moment where you become volatile to the
Yeah.
people around you because of how addicted you are, and they try to help you by removing it, which is like going cold turkey is never going to be a good idea, but they don't know that. They just try to help you, right? And you completely obliterate them, you know, like you completely lose it. This is a classic plot point in an addict story. So we're in this whole situation, witnessing this whole addict bullshit, and she's like, oh, she's such a hypocrite, yada yada, because she's like basically saying like, if I'm an addict then you are an addict, and it's like, yeah, but you're not trying to help her.
Yeah.
She had the decency to try and help you.
You're both addicts, but only one of you's a dick.
Exactly. And the thing is, like, Reva is not a saint. But she's a person.
Yeah,
she's a person. This bitch who's like the narrator, I don't think that's a real person. It can't be real. It can't be real. Because the thing is, like, I continuously, like, whenever I talk to people, I'm like, I say a lot of shit out loud to people, even online or whatever. Like, I don't really try to, like, you know, pretend to be somebody else that I'm not. Mm-hmm. But this is as bad as it gets. You hear everything that's bad, you hear it. Like, everything as bad as it gets, I will tell you. This is why I cannot believe that this is real, because who thinks like that? Who walks around and being this, like, I understand feeling like, because depression can make you be a nastier person than you are. The problem is, why doesn't she feel any remorse ever? Ever. And the fact that she felt that way before the depression.
Yeah, I'm like, this is like, at least, like, if she's gonna be that way, like, at least trying to make it clear that she's some kind of sociopath, you know?
Yeah. Like, be real about it then. Like, be for real. Like, that, show that she's genuinely just not understanding people because she doesn't have empathy. Like, she doesn't have it, so she's got this, like, whole struggle.
Yeah, but that's what makes the, like, the Trevor story and the parent story so annoying to even have in there.
Oh my god, yes.
Because it's like, are you trying to make me... like, it's like a stupid and annoying attempt at being like, wait, she actually did live a kind of a rough life, you know?
Yes. Like, and it's so bad. Like, the thing is, the things that she does for Trevor that she would never do, even like, she wouldn't even do a 15th of that for Reva, is crazy.
Yeah.
Because if we were supposed to believe that she's just like that, right? And she's such a feminist icon, you know, because she does a bunch of terrible shit or whatever.
Which is something we have to get into, and why this book is fucked.
Good lord. Like, it's really... We'll get into that, but it's just like the fact... I need to tell you guys, those of you who haven't read that book, a couple of situations that, like, show what she's doing for Trevor or whatever, and, like, it's not framed as like, oh, she's doing this for Trevor, you know, look at how good she's treating him or something like that. No, like, it's just like things that she describes about their relationship that really peeved me. Because she's thinking about those past things while she's telling you about how much she was always a dick to Reva. Okay, so one of the situations is like, she was basically at his house, and this was like in between their on and off things or whatever, and at one point he tells her to go in the kitchen, right? They're in the kitchen. He tells her to kneel, to be on her knees. Okay, he tells her to close her eyes and open her mouth. Never do that with a man ever. Like why would you do that ever? How?
Especially not a man named Trevor. Fuck.
No, honestly, fuck men. Oh my god, just, like, throw them out of the house. I cannot do it anymore. I cannot hear the stories of women doing this random ass shit. Because would he do that? No. Then why would you do that? I don't get it. Anyway.
The voice crack? No.
Girl. I can't do it. I'm losing it. Anyway, so he puts a banana in her mouth.
Oh, I hated this part too.
So then he gets a call, so he leaves the kitchen. Okay? He's on the phone, he's talking, whatever. It's like 15 minutes pass. He tells her, by the way, before he leaves, he tells her to just, like, wait. So she's waiting this entire time. Oh, all of a sudden, we're such good girls, all of a sudden.
Yeah, so tolerant. Oh,
so tolerant and so understanding. And also, we're just following instructions. We love helping. All of a sudden. What is going on, honestly? And then he comes back and he like literally tells her, he rushes her out of the house. Okay? Bitch was standing on her knees naked with a banana in her mouth the entire time. Okay? He kicks her out of the house, being like, okay, bye. Because some other woman who he's like actually wants to pursue seriously called him.
Like, girl,
like, you need to be smacked.
Like, you need to be like, so what you're telling me is you could be on your knees with a banana hanging out of your mouth, and that's okay, but being there for your friend while her mother's dying is not okay.
You can't even have a conversation with her. There's a moment where she literally, oh girl, she tells Reva, she's like, can I have like shoes or like and a dress shirt, because I don't have like something that's like appropriate color, right? And Reva is like, yeah, you can like look through my mom's stuff, but like I don't want to do it. I don't want to go. I can't look in her closet. It's too upsetting. Can you just look? And she goes, no, I'm not comfortable doing that, Reva. I can't just stay here if you want and miss the funeral, I guess.
Oh my god. But yet, you know what? But yet, you're just willing to sit there fucking silently with a banana in your mouth.
Yeah. That's fine. This type of humiliation, which honestly, if a man ever does that to anyone I know, I will hunt him down and kill him. I don't care. I don't care if it's kink shaming. I don't care. Like, oh my god. The amount of disrespect that people think is normal, just for the sake of like kink or whatever. It's like, oh my god, no. Whatever. Anyway.
Let's talk about, we got to talk about
the feminist part.
Yeah, because this is really the piece de resistance for me, is that like everybody, this book became so famous on Book Talk.
Yeah.
And people being like, oh my god, hot girl summer, the most hot girl summer book. That was, I kid you not, people were calling it the hot girl summer book.
Oh my god.
Which is why I was like, I thought it was so stupid. I was like, I need to read what the fuck this is even about for y'all to be fiending over this so much.
Sometimes I understand dictators, because like, how the fuck are you this dumb?
Yeah, literally dictators. D-I-C-K. Dictators. You fuckers.
Tater tots out of dicks.
Yeah.
Anyway, listen, it's like, why can't you be a good friend at all, right? Like, and also just like the whole thing with like with the feminism part, it's like, okay, so what people were trying to say is that it's revolutionary to see such an unlikable character in a book.
That's a female.
And the crazy part about this is that we jumped from women who were just normal people, all right, who, for example, got an abortion, right, and were crucified for it, as like, you know, the characters being crucified for this shit or whatever. People like women who were crucified for not sticking by a man when he was like cheating or something like that. Like, that's the type of shit that we were dealing with, where women were constantly made into the villain. I literally just made a video about Bluebeard and how for centuries there were so many men who were trying to rewrite this fairy tale and write in the moral. At least if you don't get it in the story, they will write it at the very bottom in a sentence, so you really get it. The story was basically, don't be curious if you're a woman.
Yeah.
Which is like, first of all, it's not curiosity, you're just checking, and you also heard a bunch of shit about this man. Yeah, I'm gonna open that door you told me not to open.
It's not curiosity, it's just like,
it's logical. It's like normal, like functioning thinking.
Yeah, like common sense, critical thinking.
Like, she's got a brain. How dare she? Like, what the fuck are you talking about? And like, this is the thing. This is the thing that we were dealing with, and the thing that we were trying to address by saying that let's write complicated characters, complicated women characters, women that would be unlikable. Unlikable woman is a woman who behaves like a person. That's what it was, usually. People were just reacting to it like, how dare she not take this abuse? How dare she choose what's best for her and not what's best for this man who was courting her like a creep? Like, this is the things that we were talking about. Like, logically, when there's two people and she, like, even doing things that would hurt the other person, but hurt him in the terms of, like, just hurting his ego. But there's like, will I hurt myself physically, mentally, financially, or will I just hurt his ego? Which one would I choose? Whenever women were choosing, or written to be choosing, the part where they wouldn't hurt their entire existence for the sake of saving a man's ego, they were crucified for it and made into like a bad person, right? We were trying to escape that characterization that doesn't make any sense. When the person is acting like a person in a good way, like she's not a murderer or something, right? Like not something completely like fucked in the head.
Like heinous, yeah.
Honestly, most of the time women were like attacked by like fandoms and whatever. It was always women who, for example, made unpopular decisions because those decisions would undercut something that that man was trying to do, like sell drugs or something like that, because she was considering empathy as a fact, as a factor that is a fact of life, instead of ignoring it entirely and calling it logic. You know, like, that's usually what it was. Like, being like, she was so emotional when she said this to this character. How dare she? And it's like, oh my God, because, like, she's talking about her kids. Yeah, she's gonna give a fuck more about the kids and protecting them than this moron. Like, don't know how to explain this to you any further.
I don't know how to make it any simpler than that.
Like, there's no way. There's no way to make it simpler, really.
Yeah.
And then this is where we ended up in this era of people genuinely, like, not using their brains but acting on vibes. We just consistently, this is what happens with like people's perception of like public figures too. It's the same approach where we go from one like attitude that's really extreme to another one, and I don't mean it in a binary. I mean like just random feelings that are really extreme about public figures that we don't know. It's kind of the same thing about like the way that people decide to approach political movements, where they go from
one extreme to the other.
Yeah, from being like women should be treated like people to that teacher was 30 and that kid was 12, but she was a woman. You know what I mean? Like, they start to like going completely off the rails.
Yeah, like they're like, okay, let's make the, like, at least for the narrator, it's like they're like, yeah, you know what? Let's make her into the most like let's just like make an unlikable man, like a classic unlikable man, but just make her female. You know, and that is radical feminism. You know, like,
let's make the worst person.
Let's make a non-human human.
Yeah.
And that's not feminism.
And that's not feminism. That's the thing, like I understand making like unpopular decisions. I understand even making decisions that kind of like self-serving, or even doing things that are technically bad. But we're in her head. This is the point of view that we're reading the book from. We don't just see her doing shit on the outside where we could assume that she was struggling or she was completely gone. She wasn't thinking. She wasn't able to put thoughts together. That's how sick she is. No, we know exactly what that bitch is thinking.
Yeah.
We know exactly what's going on in her mind when she is doing this shit.
Yeah, and this will never be, and I don't care what anyone has to say, she will never be a feminist character, a feminist icon. This will never be a feminist book, because the whole point of the story is that literally the whole story is just her berating and breaking down another woman who is actually living life, struggling. That was the only action she took besides taking drugs, was to beat this fucking woman down. And like, the worst part is Reva getting killed. Like, you might as well have killed her. You might as well have killed her, and that would have made more sense. You know what I mean? To me, like, it's just like woman against woman crime, dude. Like,
women on women crime. And like, the thing is, listen, the worst part about this is like, just be for real for 1 fucking second. Like, how is this girl the one that, like, I mean, I guess considering how fucked life is and how horrible it is in terms of luck and everything, yeah, like, I understand why this could be feasible, but at the same time, it's like, why did she get to not only survive, but this book at least, right? But also come out on the other side after a bender and like leaning into her addiction, come out cured.
Yeah, and unscathed and like...
How is that? How are you really? You're gonna write a book where she literally falls deeper and deeper into an addiction, and the addiction is the solution to her addiction?
Yeah, like the addiction worked essentially.
That's the thing. That's what like really drove me nuts about it, because the thing is, you would think that Reva's death, because for those of you who don't know, Reva dies in the attacks on 9/11.
Yeah.
And the protagonist keeps on like watching this clip of this woman jumping out of the building. Kind of like she didn't, in the book it says that she actually doesn't think that it's Reva, but it's like kind of like just makes her feel like maybe it's her, but like by the looks, by the hair, whatever, it's not Reva, but she kind of like, you know, thinks of her whenever she sees that clip. So she keeps on rewatching it, and she's kind of like saying like, oh, actually, you know what, I gotta read that last thing, right? Might as well.
I definitely have thoughts about, or like my own interpretations of what the author was trying to symbolize with that, but then that even made me even more mad.
Yeah.
Everything just makes me more mad.
It was just so like, it just was so fucked, honestly. Like, and the thing is, we actually realize, well, not realize, but like we are told that she changed her kind of like, you know, her attitude before she dies. That's what the problem is too, is that her death wasn't even like the catalyst for change. The addiction and actually leaning into it and becoming an addict for a whole half a year every single day taking that medication was what actually cured her, okay? And anyway, so the last part is, on September 11th, I went out and bought a new TV VCR at Best Buy so I could record the news coverage of the planes crashing into the Twin Towers.
You fucking sadist.
She went out to buy to record it. Okay, that's even, oh my god. Anyway, Trevor was on a honeymoon in Barbados. This is also the most fucked thing, is that Trevor survived it, even though he was supposed to be in the towers. Whatever. I'd later learn, but Reva was lost. Reva was gone. I watched the videotape over and over to soothe myself that day. How is that soothing you? Oh my god, you goddamn sadist. Like, something's wrong with you.
Yeah, she's actually psychotic.
Oh my god. Anyway, and I continue to watch it, usually on a lonely afternoon or any other time I doubt that life is worth living, or when I need courage, or when I'm bored. Each time I see the woman leap off the 78th floor of the North Tower, one high-heeled shoe slipping off and hovering up over her, the other stuck on her foot as though it were too small, her blouse untucked, hair flailing, limbs stiff as she plummets down, one arm raised like a dive into a summer lake. I am overcome by awe. Not because she looks like Reva, and I think it's her, almost exactly her, and not because Reva and I had been friends, or because I'll never see her again, but because she is beautiful. There she is, a human being, diving into the unknown, and she is wide awake.
And by the way, this was shortlisted for the Man Booker Prize, which really says a lot about where our heads are at these days, you know? It's kind of depressing, I'm not gonna lie, that this is considered literary genius. But anyways.
It's depressing.
Yeah, it is. I know that it's supposed to make us like, it's so bad that we're supposed to appreciate the opposite of what it's trying to portray. But I don't know if that's really that successful here. This book it was so punishing to read.
Punishing is such a good word, bitch.
Yeah,
punishing is actually like the perfect word to describe it.
It's so punishing, and I'm not even sure like what I was supposed to get out of that, if anything at all. Like, at least make it exciting. It wasn't even that for me personally. I didn't find it like enjoyable, or not enjoyable. It wasn't supposed to be enjoyable, but I didn't even find it interesting.
Yeah, I actually, you know what, there's a note that I had here because I was like, and it was on a page well before the last page where she says, I took a Zyprexa and some more Ativan. I ate a handful of melatonin, chewing like a cow on cud. Nothing was working. And the note that I wrote on top of it was, how is this bitch unkillable? Is she Rasputin or something?
She's actually Rasputin or Satan. It's one of the
like,
two.
Genuinely, how is she unkillable? She took so
Jesus
many drugs, so many, and she's fine. And Reva died. Isn't that the, like, classic of life?
Yeah.
That bitches who are rich do this to their whole life. They do this shit, and then they're fine.
You can actually make this book good if you interpret it that way. Do you know what I mean? Like, oh, this is a story of like how life is unfair, and like this rich, beautiful girl gets to live her life. You can interpret it in that way and kind of make good with the book. But in my opinion, like, I don't, for one thing, we don't even know if the author even intended that. So I'm not even going to give it that credit. I'm not even going to give it my interpretation and give it credit.
Yeah.
Because like the book itself, besides having that interpretation, gave me no inkling that was the message.
That's the thing, you know. I kind of like, when I think about this book as in the interpretation that a lot of people have, which is like, yes, she's very unlikable, but it's kind of like a representation of a really, you know, of this particular type of person, or maybe it's someone who is, you know, doesn't have empathy, so they are struggling with that, whatever, right? So there's many ways you can read that in a sympathetic way if you really fucking want to. However, all of those readings, like, I was trying to come up with those readings beforehand so I can fucking rebuke it here, refute them, tell you to stop saying nonsense, you know, just in case, because I know there's gonna be a bunch of people who are gonna open it being like, this is my favorite book and she's actually like so relatable, and or at least like, oh, she's supposed to be a dickhead, this is like the whole thing, right? And it's like,
ooh, I'm gonna love it if someone's like, that was the point, she's not supposed to be relatable.
I'm gonna literally reply with a timestamp to those people so they hear you say that, because the thing is, yes, okay, so some people are gonna be like, yeah, maybe you predicted that we're gonna say that, but we're still right even though you said that, whatever. Listen, the book loses all of its credibility and all of its like gravity at the end, not when Reva dies, but exactly when she is at the park talking to people and she's basically thinking, oh, life is not so bad. When we realize that this bender actually cured her. This is when the book loses all of its credibility.
Agreed.
This is when it loses its own plot, basically. Its own point gets lost in translation or in whatever. I don't even know if there was a fucking point, because how could you write this book and then never arrive at a point where, like, you know what, it would actually make more sense if she was on that bender this entire time and what snaps her out is that Reva died.
Yeah.
Maybe it doesn't snap her out entirely. Maybe we actually she could have just ended the book with her just like rewatching that clip and being like, I cannot, like, or even with that last sentence, right? Like, oh, she's diving entirely awake, whatever. And we don't know whether that actually cures her or even helps her get off that fucking couch, but at least it would make sense.
I honestly would have been probably more satisfied if it was that last line and then she's like, yeah, but I couldn't take it, so I just put myself back to sleep with drugs. Like, you know what I mean?
I think that honestly, even if she wouldn't have returned it, or that was if she would have just been rewatching it, right? Yeah. Like, if we would have seen the same situation like unfold, except she was just like sleeping and it didn't work. I think that would make more sense, that she was sleeping, she kept on doing this shit and it didn't work, because that would be realistic. Okay, let's start there. that would be the reality of being an addict, that leaning into it is not going to fix you.
Yeah. It should have been that, or she dies,
or she dies. Yeah, or she dies. And like, and even if she would have written that last part with Reva dying and her staying alive, if that was like the whole, like the end of the book, it would make so much more sense to those, like, to that reading of those people who love this book. It would actually make sense that this book was more about that, because it would be like, okay, so this is a modern take on a modern woman who's given everything. This is like a commentary basically on modern day America, and it will make so much sense that it ends with 9/11.
Yeah.
And
So
and
great.
it would make sense that it's so open-ended, that it's like, did it actually help? Did anything help? Did losing Reva snap her out of it? It should have been ended open-ended, just because it would make so much more sense that nothing in life, these moments in life, like for someone's death or whatever, rarely actually fixes anything if you're an addict. But it might actually do, like, it might give you that weird fixation on rewatching the same fucking clip and just not comprehending how life works. It might actually make you like feel weirdly catatonic like that.
Yeah, like feel something. And honestly, it probably, if it ended like that too, it would give some validity to any kind of like potentially positive interpretations of the book, in my opinion.
Yes.
Like, it would give it some validity, but like, because it did not end that way, I'm sorry, you cannot claim that.
Like the decision to make it work, the drugs working, and her bender working actually, and the decision to show her better before the death of Reva takes away the entirety of that layer that you could have put on top of it as like a commentary on current harmful life that Americans are leading to themselves, because it would make so much sense that it would even end with 9/11, because it's like one of the first times when they got like a wake-up call of like, oh, maybe destabilizing countries is not gonna be like a thing that's gonna work out for us forever. Mayhaps sometimes they will do shit like that, and you're gonna have to deal with something that you helped create, right? Like this cycle, showing that sleeping through it or completely shutting the world out and living in your lavish apartment is not gonna work forever. Do you know what I mean? Like, that would be at least something. But she herself, the author herself, shoots herself in the fucking foot.
Yeah, I think we were talking about this, she even commented that she doesn't really like agree with her book anymore.
No, like, the funniest thing is that I would understand if she was like, I don't agree with the book anymore or something like that, but she literally said verbatim that this book, like the way that she was writing that character, who's a very angry person, the thing is, again, anger does not equate being a dick. You could be angry but be righteous in your anger, and she clearly is not.
Like, angry is not the right word.
It's not the right word. It's nasty. I think that nasty, at least. In any case, like, she said, this person's very angry. I don't relate to her anymore, and it helped me graduate from those from those, like, not issues, but like from those concerns I had back then. And I'm like, concerns?
You related to her at some point?
You related to her?
What the?
She wasn't just like Patrick Bateman for you?
Dude,
like a version of him for you? Like, that's not what it was? Because this is what I was reading. I was like, isn't this kind of is like Psycho for Men, like the movie, right? Where like maybe they misunderstand it or whatever, but it's actually a commentary on current state of affairs in the Western world and how we are dealing with our effect on the rest of the world and yada yada yada. But this is kind of like on a smaller scale, whatever. At least it would make some fucking sense. The bitch shoots herself in the foot, and then after that, people were gonna give her an award. I want to understand if people were talking about giving her an award for writing this, if it ended like the way that I said that it should have ended.
I agree with that.
Because yes, I did not enjoy the character. She was a dickhead, but I would be like, you know what? Fucking makes sense, because this is what happens to your brain when you're surrounded by this hyper individualistic consumerist culture that makes you feel like you're alone, going insane, can't relate to anything or anyone, can't live your life, need to sleep through it, and yada yada yada. Like, these effects would make sense, but she undercuts her own impact, her own like message. Her own book makes no fucking sense because of that last leg of it. I would even forgive her being a dickhead, and I would be like, actually, it makes sense that this character is a dickhead, okay? Like, it makes sense. But it like, doesn't.
Even that comment of her being like, I don't relate to her anymore, kind of explains why she didn't think of that ending. Because she truly thought that this character is going to be relatable, which is so fun. Which is so funny because I feel like that's like the people who are like super fans of this book are like the same people who are super fans about Psycho, who don't realize like we should be really mocking these people. Like what's his Bateman is not like the guys who like that movie actually think like, yo, he's sick. He's like,
and
he's
it's so
he's
ridiculous.
Dope. But I'm like, dude, this guy is so like the dumbest person.
The biggest loser you could ever meet.
Yeah. And it's like, that's what's really concerning about it, is that people would find this character relatable if the author does.
Yeah,
like,
they genuinely find him relatable, and you're just sitting there like, do you ever understand anything?
Do you have a soul? Like,
oh my god. Yeah, the reason why they relate to it and whatever is because they are kind of like surrounded by this narrative, and they think that, genuinely, to be honest, it feels like Arrested Development, not the show. Just like they have Arrested Development, those people who relate to this shit, because if you're not 15 or maybe even 12, you should not be finding this as captivating.
Yeah, I agree. It's not like, you shouldn't be finding this edgy and cool.
Because when you're 12, maybe you could be looking at this with all the like your new feelings of frustration, anger, and other things like that you haven't experienced to that degree yet. You could be watching it and being like, yeah, I also hate that, and I also hate this. And maybe because your analytical skills are not there yet, you're not noticing all the other bullshit that they're thinking you're doing, right? Or you're thinking that it's just kind of like an exaggeration at the end or whatever the fuck, right? However, the characters are 25 and over, both Bateman and this bitch. Both of them are over 25, and at this point, the fact that they're like this and they can't even clock it is concerning. Same with the author. You wrote that and you didn't clock it.
Yeah. Oh, same thing with Fight Club too, now that I think about it.
Yeah, but that's the thing, like, at least with Fight Club and with Psycho,
American.
both directors, I don't know about the author. I think the author of Psycho, the guy who wrote it, actually he was just like mentally fucked.
Yeah.
But the woman who made the movie, the director, actually was commenting on this shit. That's why she like wanted to make it, because she knew that she could actually like dive into it for real.
Yeah. There's like so many parts too in the movie, in my opinion, that are so comical because it's so like actually cringe. You know, like, you
specifically that fucking scene with the cards. Like, how can you watch it and think it's for real?
Yeah, like, that's not satire.
Yeah.
What?
Like, of course it is. Like, you do see that in real life, but like, you
She's
clock
making fun of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You look at it and you go, okay, you guys are fucked in the head. Like, you need help. I'm sorry.
Let's say it together, guys. Apathy and cruelty isn't cool. I'm sorry, it's not. Like,
yes, and anger can be of different flavors.
Yeah.
Some anger is justified. Sometimes when people fight back, they should.
Yeah.
Sometimes when people are doing something, when they're bullied back, they should. Bullying is bad. Bullying back is great.
Yeah.
Like, how do you not get that? You know, like, to a lot of people who I see online who, like, again, they go off of vibes. So they see somebody responding to something absolutely diabolical with, like, a roast or, like a takedown, right? And their response to it is, she gives Mean Girl. I will hunt you down. You can't be serious. You can't seriously look at somebody being angry at an injustice and be pissed at them for having an opinion on that. Yeah. Use your brain. Use your brain. Like, sometimes. To those people, that's what I want to say.
Free, guys. Critical thinking is free.
It's free. It's available, and you can purchase it.
Yeah. And we're not
purchase it by just paying with some time to think. That's all.
think, study,
it's free
read.
monetarily wise, but it does cost some time
Yeah.
and effort. Just a bit.
Yep.
Not even that
And
much.
we're not talking to our audience because y'all are the shits, y'all are awesome.
Honestly, yeah. Thank
you all have a
God.
degree in
Thank
critical
God. Because
thinking.
what I enjoy about this is that regardless of whether this is like, you know, like provides revenue or not, the people in the comments are sane. Thank
Yeah.
God. Because
Y'all are
I've seen some comment sections, and I've talked about it before to people, like to my subscribers, that like I've seen what kind of audiences some people have. Like, for example, people who like primarily work on Twitch, they have absolutely insane audiences, like full of like incels and stuff like that. And thank God, I not only do I have only like days, gays, girls in the comments, they're also all sane.
Yeah.
And a lot of people like very educated and smart and have like something to contribute to the conversation. It's great, actually. Thank God.
Oh, and shout outs to everybody.
Shout out to the Fevral Nation.
Yeah.
We're actually fairies. We're Fevral fairies.
Yeah. Shout out to all the fairies, and shout outs to everybody who gave me well wishes.
Yes, so many people were like really sweet.
Yeah, that was so heartwarming, and it did make me feel better. So thank you.
Actually, yeah. Whenever my assistant is kind of like low, I read her. I like find some like a cute comment and send it to her.
Yeah, and it does make me feel better. Like yeah, the fairies are fairying. They're sick.
Honestly,
y'all are cool. Happy to have you, and enjoy this podcast.
Yeah, thank you for listening. Let us know how you're doing. Yeah. Yeah. We'll be back.
We will be back on our regular schedule.
Yeah, it's regular schedule.
Okay, bye.
Bye.